Hello, welcome to Outside the Sanctuary. I am Bill Merkh, and I have my two trusty co-hosts with me,
Katrina McDonald
and Steve Entwistle.
So today's topic is going to be exciting. It's on idolatry, and we'll have a cool name for it later, but we haven't come up with that name yet. It's just idolatry, because that's how this works. A little behind the scenes thing. So I'll start out with a quote, because I like to do quotes sometimes, or little things. And the things that own you, the papa. See, I missed these.
Well, it's not your quote, so it's understandable. Yeah, it's understandable.
You're reading it with your handwriting, which
with
is
my handwriting,
a miraculous thing.
So today's code is Steve Edwards. The things you own end up owning you. And
yes,
that is true.
And that is from a very deep theological,
Michael Scott.
No.
Just
it's Fight Club.
There you go.
You didn't see that one coming.
I think in the pop culture range, I wasn't too far off.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the ballpark.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about idolatry from the golden calf to things today that we have as idols. So since I kind of already talked too much, let's have you talk. Or I don't care. Which one do you want to talk? None of this is scripted, as Vince would say.
Yeah, none of this is scripted. So I'll just start out by monologuing.
Should be scripted.
Yeah,
It really should.
I mean, the topic is interesting, I think, to me, because, we're living in America and, we're blessed to be living in America. None of our choices. We just ended up here. And, it's one of the richest nations ever. And so we're kind of born into, and again, sort of blessed just by being here in general. But then, of course, each one of our family situations, I mean, there's probably more blessings than not in the long run. And, we end up sort of, I think it's very easy as a Christian to kind of get wrapped up in consumerism.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right. And just lust, for things and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely a battle for all of us to kind of go, walk through that. And it also looks different from, what anyone would read in the Bible, sort of like what we we're talking about before, where, you're reading the scriptures and you're reading about the golden calf,
right.
And everyone was just worshiping that because they needed something to worship and they had so little faith. And it was just like, I've got an idea. We're going to craft a golden statue and worship that because that should suffice the need, and then, of course, God's angered by this. And it actually is funny because it represents even things that we deal with today. And it has nothing to do with a statue, might not have anything to do with a statue, nothing to do like that or some, spirit god or something that we're worshiping, but all the same principles still apply. So I think it's pretty cool that the biblical principles, that were shown in the Old Testament about idolatry, worshiping the golden calf, and then how that actually plays into modern day Christianity, is just an interesting topic to me because we all still fall prey to sort of that mentality every now and then, and I know I can go on all the things I've fallen prey to, some examples, but that's kind of what draws me to the conversation. So
we got time.
How much time exactly? But yeah.
Well, idolatry looks different today than it did, back in the Old Testament.
Right. Yeah, it does. And I mean, but the struggle is still the same.
Sure.
I think.
Yeah.
And so especially if you can't see it, God.
Not see it
right
in our own lives, because we don't have a golden calf on our mantle anymore. We have.
But are people still worship
a Wi-Fi connection to the internet and the TV and entertainment, can be
books.
And I was talking to Vince, my husband, earlier, and he was saying, idolatry can be whatever takes your joy from the blessings God is giving you and makes those bigger. Your idol is now bigger than the blessing, so to speak.
Right.
So, for a while I could say that I sort of could fall into the idolizing a bigger house and this beautiful neighborhood and things like that. And that can be bigger in my mind than the fact that we have our own house and we have our own neighborhood. And so I don't want to, start idolizing something that I already have in my heart.
Mhm.
So that would be a lot more like envy too. Right?
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
envy and
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
idolization. is-
Yeah, idolization.
I think when I looked at the definition of idolatry earlier, the words pride and greed
Okay.
were in the same sentence. So I feel like you're,
Yeah. Right.
same,
So I
same
feel
thing.
it's kind
A
of
heart
the same.
Like
issue.
covetousness.
Yeah.
You're coveting after what somebody else has
Yeah.
that you don't. you know.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Which,
so
honestly,
basically we
yeah.
hit 2 of the 10 commandments.
Right.
No other.
Yeah.
Covet.
And I've done the same thing. And honestly, I'm not going to even lie. I still fall into that trap
Oh,
where,
it's easy to. Yeah.
we're having a particularly close day at the house and you start not being able to breathe, sometimes and need some space. And you're like,
Right.
man, if that one house had just worked out, or
Right.
if we just, if something else would just open up, I wish we could have something better, something bigger, something more.
Right.
And instead, the practice is like, whoa, hold on, like, look at what God
Look at what
has
you do
given us.
have.
And honestly, how bad is it?
Right.
Like, with our, we have so many blessings in our family that, we're just so grateful.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is our family,
Mm-hmm.
our kids.
Yeah.
We have 3 kids and 1 more on the way. And I'm like, my first thought was, I joke with Debbie because I'm like, if we have a 4th kid, what are we going to do with the truck that we have that only seats 5? Like,
Yeah.
and we have 3 bedrooms in the house, and so what's going to happen? And God always works it out. And I just think to myself, man, what a problem to have is the blessing of kids. And we have a smaller house, but it's served us so well for over a decade now. So, it's a blessing. And so if you just take a step back and remember what God actually has given you that you didn't have even before, it's actually very easy to be grateful for stuff like that and stop. You completely forget about the home you wish you had or what somebody else has. And you turn it all back to the blessings that God has given you and why you're grateful for that.
Right.
So as I'm the oldest one here, you start thinking,
Your house is huge.
Been through a few houses.
so this is where I'm going with it. Now I think, I wish I just had a smaller house. So I don't have to, I want a house that I don't have to do stairs anymore.
Yeah.
My knees,
I wish my washer and dryer were on the first floor.
they are.
Well,
But
there you go.
the point is,
Does your house have a basement?
yes. But
See, there I go. I did it again.
See how easy it is?
But I'm saying the stairs. There's too many stairs. I can't. Oh, I'm old. Anyway, but yeah, we all fall under looking at different things and wanting different things, and Lisa did a little bit ago on her Sunday school. Was actually talking in Philippians in the women's Sunday school here at Emmanuel about Paul was talking about motives in Philippians, and basically, we have to be careful because of our motives might be good at first, and I want a bigger house because of my
growing
family.
I work from home,
right?
XYZ.
But even and then it turns into envy. It turns into that. And that's not even like, let's get away from houses. Let's go with even our motives, starting out the podcast. I just wanted to put out good content. And if we can just get like 30 people to listen, now I'm like, I want 5,000 viewers and I need each one of them to comment, share it. And now I need 10,000 and I'm trying to,
Bigger,
did my motivations go wrong? And I started out good with that, and I'm not worried. My motives are still good for this. I'm not saying that, but you always have to check yourself and make sure that
before you wreck yourself.
That is true.
Wise words.
More deep words, deep thoughts.
Yeah.
Steve Entwistle. But
Whole segment.
yeah, but you have to be careful. And again, I'm stealing this from part of Lisa's lesson that I heard, but you have to be ready to look at those things of popularity. Oh, this person and this person. And you and I were speaking earlier, and you were telling me a story about a bassist.
Oh yeah. I had the opportunity to meet one of Chris Tomlin's old bass players, and I don't know if he was one of his studio musicians or just one of his live players. But we were at a, down south at a conference, and kind of one of his stories that he was talking about, which kind of worked into a message for that weekend, was talking specifically about the golden calf. And it was such a cool parallel, because what he was talking about was how God had gifted him with musical abilities. One way or another, he ends up in Chris Tomlin's band, his group. And clearly he's good enough to at least have been on the world stage, essentially, because Chris Tomlin's, his normally his performances are stadium size. And now this was, I'm thinking it was in the early 2000s or mid 2000s, so maybe 15 years ago or so. And so honestly, the guy was talking about how he's playing, he's driven, he's, here he is doing this thing. It's for thousands and thousands of people. You start out and sort of like how Bill was talking about Lisa's message in Philippians, is the motivations are, we're worshiping God. I'm playing for God.
Yeah.
I just want to play worship songs for the masses and get the gospel out and things like that. And he kind of spoke about how easily it turned, because as soon as you start leveling up in popularity, social status, sort of, and even just in the Christian sphere, and we've kind of seen how that's kind of blown up, especially with social media kind of being, the hub of communication, it blew up. And so Chris Tomlin, stratosphere, and anyone with him, and here's his bass player on this stage playing for thousands and thousands of people repetitively, day over day, and literally turning it back on himself, saying like, look what we've done, and very much in the moment of performance and popularity and, just sort of pride. And the message was good, because he ended up leaving the band for whatever reason, but ultimately his message was, if you look at the golden calf and the reasons that they basically crafted that and started worshiping it, idolizing it, it's very similar to what you see and what he saw, where he was sort of standing on the stage, and now you're idolizing your abilities. You're idolizing your popularity. Yeah. In local churches, we idolize the color of the carpet.
Yeah.
Because there's arguments over that, right?
Nobody idolizes
not this particular one, but somebody did at some point in time. I guarantee it.
I think I asked why it was that color.
It's just in case anybody spilled the communion.
Yeah, you would never be able to tell.
Oh, it's good. Did you spill the communion?
Yeah.
No,
it's for
somebody did.
Yeah, it's just a talking point. You remember that church? Which one?
Well, there actually is a reason. There is a reason.
Oh, really?
Because I do know.
Oh, this is exciting. Oh,
there's a real reason.
Because it's changing the carpet color.
Breaking news. Hold on.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
What?
Katrina McDonald.
Oh my gosh. So the reason they haven't changed the carpet is because it would do the paintings. They're called something up there. The
stained glass?
Yes.
Oh, the stained glass.
It would do a disservice to that art to change the color of the carpet.
Yeah.
Like
it's too much of a difference that people would only notice the carpet.
It matches focal points in the piece, and I hope that Deanna Cranefeld approves of me saying that, because she knows interior design and she did a beautiful job with the nursery at Emmanuel. And so when I asked her, I said, why didn't we change the carpet? And she said, well, actually, because it would do a disservice to the painting.
I mean,
I'm
that's
done.
legit. No, that's legit. I never knew.
I didn't know either. I didn't know.
I love the stained glass. I think it's beautiful.
Me too.
I'm okay with doing a disservice to it.
Yeah, personally, not disservice to the stained glass.
Yeah.
The carpet can go, but I get the idea.
I stand behind whatever Deanna says.
But anyway, so that's like literally what the whole sentiment was, is like, be careful what you're idolizing in your daily life, because it can be something as small as and speaking about the local church, it's like where are the hymnals? And I love hymnals. It's just, you also don't really need them. It's not a thing that you have to have. It's a blessing to have it if you want it,
Yeah.
It's just a tool of worship, to help you to worship the Lord. But things like that, people, especially in the local church, get into arguments, and really what it is you're idolizing. Eventually it could get to the point where you're idolizing that thing that you're fighting for, rather than just wondering, well, why are we doing this? Is it for the Lord, or to make me feel good about where I am and what I see?
Well, that can even be ministry. The ministry, you can idolize ministry over God.
100%.
And I feel that can be a real
crutch for someone.
Crutch, and again, they could start it out. The motives could be pure. I'm starting out this ministry to do this. And then that ministry becomes the idol rather than
Right.
what actually.
I think that's probably one of the benefits of having like seasons of service, in church.
That's true.
So like our deacons, deaconesses, you have to take breaks, because, and I'm not saying there's like a magic number, like serve for 1 year, 2 years, 9 years. Like, I don't know. It probably is really dependent on the personality, who's serving, as well as, how long that duration affects someone. But really, it's like, if, when you're going to church, the idea is to worship the Lord and be fed, so if you're only serving, you're never sitting and thinking and listening and participating with your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, and even the people who come in who are searching for Christ. If you don't take that opportunity to be in that position ever, it can be a distraction and sort of a detriment to yourself. Maybe not for everybody, but personally, I feel like it's only been positive, being able to be fed and to feed in this, various acts of service in the church. But the longer you go down that hole and you're only serving, you're like, well, this is my purpose here.
Like church anymore.
Right. This is my purpose. I am the, I don't know, whatever, Sunday school teacher or something.
It's holding this together.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So you're right. I mean, I think the ministry to individuals and churches can certainly become an idol, where you think that you're the reason, it's only because of you that these people know that, whatever, that thing in the Bible is the way that it is, Yeah. So you can get carried away.
Yeah. And I think there's so many things can easily become an idol. I mean, it's just literally, I mean, now, like you said, with the phones and stuff like that, and then it's not only the phone, but what's on the phone. And now, and
I finally had to just I was telling Vince, I took YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I just had to take it all off, because, I've been given the privilege and the blessing of being a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And everything ebbs and flows in seasons, but I just was like, am I connecting with my kid? Like, this is my job. They are my job. And so I read something on Instagram. It said,
oh, this is great.
well, it said, do you show up to work, half asleep, trying to say,
yes.
late,
sorry. All right.
Well, Bill, maybe Bill, you do that. But your job as a stay-at-home mom is you show up, you get up early, you get yourself together, you get yourself ready to manage your children, raise your children is what I'm doing. So what all mothers are doing, regardless of their job status, but I was just scrolling constantly, they're playing, I'm scrolling. And so I think it was like 2 weeks ago, finally, I was like, when was the last time I played with Vivian? Like really played with her and let her talk to me, or, she's making me some soup in her tin kitchen. That's why I'm here. I'm not, here to make our house something extravagant. I'm here to be with my kids
Right.
and be present with them. And when I have access to that, it's just too tempting to look up whatever it is that's posted on there. So I just had to stop. Tips on motherhood is what I look up, but
Or if you're
Your
watching,
heart was in the right place.
I'm looking up things to cook, how to
Yeah.
clean your house,
Right.
this or that or whatever. And the next thing you know, an hour goes by and I'm like, just a minute.
And I still don't know what to make for dinner.
I'm no better a cook than I was before. And, it was convicting because you're like, wait, when am I supposed to, read the Bible and pray? Well, it's probably when you're on here.
Mhm.
Sorry, just tapped on the table.
it's okay.
But
That's a no-no.
that's a no-no. So, and there's also the connection with your spouse. To fit all of it in a day feels like such a burden when you also feel like you have to check your phone.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I'm going to check my phone. When am I going to talk to my spouse? When am I going to play with my kids? Now I have to do this. So, push this away
Mhm.
and be okay to sit in the grass and watch your kids feed their dinosaurs dirt. Because that's what I love to do.
Yeah. That's the podcast title.
That's
Watching your kids.
watching your kids.
They're dinosaurs in the dirt.
Yeah, that'll get a ton of views.
Yep. Well,
Already, you just.
You care about the views.
I do care about the views. I just don't care about the views. Doesn't mean my heart's not in the right thing. My
Right.
motives are still correct. But
That's fair. That's fair.
and for one person it might be an idol, and one person
Mhm.
might not be.
Yeah.
It might not be as bad of a temptation.
Mhm.
Right.
I'm not saying it is for me because I'm terrible at it. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And even though I can't believe you deleted YouTube, and
I'm proud of you.
I had to do it. It's
Why did it have to be
like I had to
YouTube?
do it.
it couldn't have been.
Nobody watches that anyway.
I get a few viewers. Come on, that's all I'm asking. No, I'm just
few.
kidding.
Let's remember.
Yeah, the three of us. And
And this is when he goes, like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes, that's right.
see, you got it down. You got it down.
I'm here.
There's a very, I don't know. I'm just trying to.
I think.
Okay.
I think though what you're saying is really important, but it's commendable, especially in today's day and age. But the funny thing is, I'm sitting here thinking because we talked about it before, me, you, and Vince and Debbie
Mhm.
about kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
like taking a step back
Yeah.
and trying to control that.
Didn't she do something for Lent?
Yeah,
It was like no phone passed.
we both
I was
did. Yeah.
very upset.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny actually. We're not supposed to talk about what we did for Lent,
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
but
I don't participate in
that's a thing.
I don't do it.
That is a
So
thing.
I didn't know.
Well, this was the first year we did it as a family.
Okay.
I've never done it with my family ever before.
Okay.
It's been on our hearts for quite a long time. So we figured, Lee was a little bit like Lee didn't really participate,
Yeah.
but he was old enough to respect what was happening.
hmm
And so we figured this was a
Lee,
good
your
idea.
youngest child.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Lee, my youngest child. So we participated as a family in Lent, and there were certain things that each of the kids gave up, except for Lee, my
Mhm.
youngest child. And then of course me and Debbie, and one of them was that, and it was just more about like getting electronics out of the bedroom.
Yeah.
And then also in the downtime, for me personally, I gave up like reading, news,
hmm
digital
Mhm.
news media and YouTube.
Mm.
Because those were the two main things that would suck up my morning and then my night.
Right.
And, really kind of miraculous results,
I'm sure.
because you're just basically taking,
Yeah.
you're fasting and then
Yeah.
your habits break and it's
Mhm.
great. But I was sitting here thinking when you're talking, it's like, and you picked up your phone as an example of what you would do. And I'm like, even Apple actually knows that this is a thing because they have a pickup counter. They know when you pick up your phone and it says how many lifts, or how many times have you viewed your phone. So anytime it's down and you lift it, it's 1, 2, 3,
Oh my
4,
God.
and they have it in their screen time things.
And that's why you get Samsung.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
but they know it's
No
an
accountability.
addiction. It's an addiction. So they're trying to put accountability into the hands of their users because they know that people are just.
I mean, that's why they have screen time.
Right. That's
Set a
built into
reminder.
that.
Why do I
Right.
need a reminder for screen time? Because
Right.
the screen is addicting.
Yes. Yes.
That's
So,
why.
anyway, if Apple knows it, it shouldn't be this thing that's like shameful per se.
Mhm.
It's just, hey, this is a real thing in today's day and age.
Hmm.
What's a healthy way of managing it? You know.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
And it's kind of weird. So the phones, I think, are one of the most addictive things.
Mm.
And I was watching YouTube. See, this, you guys are killing me here.
yeah, you're not
can
going to sound
ask
good.
it on my laptop.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So at night, check my laptop. Checking my phone.
oh, good. Well, that's good. So anyway,
She
I'm
just
watching-
checks in.
I'm watching YouTube, and it was a concert from 1991,
Mm-hmm.
and
Who's the band?
it was Pearl Jam.
No, naturally.
Of course.
Naturally.
Right? Well, I mean, of course.
Yeah.
But Eddie jumps out into the crowd. Eddie Vedder, their lead singer.
Mhm.
He jumps out in the crowd. Not one phone in sight. Nobody
Yes.
cares. It was 1991.
Wow.
There's
Exactly.
nothing.
They actually could catch him.
They actually, nowadays, everybody be smacking the face with their phone.
And poor Eddie, he'd have a broken collarbone or something.
Broken hip because he's almost 60.
That's-
Right.
30 some years ago.
That's right. That's
But
right.
yeah, everybody now, and you go to a concert. Or,
They used to be lighters.
we used to
and now
bring
it's
in lighters,
so light.
and now
That
we're
is
bringing
the
the.
lamest thing
Yeah.
I have ever seen.
Okay, well, you know what?
It's
I'm
safer.
just
It is.
Buildings aren't burning down now, and
What?
people aren't catching on fire.
And me, I
there
never.
was
smoked.
major disaster when that would happen. You're right.
100%.
You're right.
I'm the idiot that never smoked in my life, and
Yeah.
here I'm going and buying lighters. So you go. I'm going into 7-Eleven. I'm like, I need 79 cents for this lighter. Oh, what are you going to use it for? There's
It's a
one
concert,
song
trust me.
at the show. Just one song. It's going to be a little slow.
I need my
We're gonna
Zippo.
go back where I gotta afford a Zippo for one song. I go to a concert every couple of months. It's not
right.
really worth it.
That's
You know?
hilarious.
But
I'm proud of you for going through the trouble of
Yeah.
buying a lighter.
You're a fan.
That's a real deal.
now I don't have to. I got the nice little phone.
Oh.
That's me.
Well,
But
Well, you're not alone. So.
I don't even have. I have like a kitchen torch. So
you have this long thing up there.
In the butane lighter.
He gave them up for Lent, so we actually have the long kitchen matches.
Yeah, it's
And he just lights it.
and they break half the time, so they're impossible.
right.
So hold up your lighters. We're going to break.
Welcome to Emmanuel Baptist Church, where our focus has been building strong lives in Jesus Christ since 1925, right here in Maple Shade, New Jersey. With 2 Sunday services at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., you can choose the time that works best for you. And if you have children, our Greenhouse Kids Ministry and Nursery are available during the 11 a.m. service, so you can worship without distractions. But that's not all. On Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., we offer Sunday school classes for all ages. And if you're looking for a midweek pick-me-up, we have a variety of events on Wednesday nights. For more information on all of our programs and events, visit our website at ibclife.org. Follow us on social media and check out our weekly bulletin. And there's one more way to stay connected with us. Download our Church Center app. With this convenient app, you can stay up to date on all of our events and register for programs. Emmanuel Baptist Church, building strong lives in Jesus Christ.
Okay. So we were just talking about during the break that's my intro of okay. So if you keep hearing us laugh every time I bring us back in, that's what you're listening to.
Yep.
But what you're really listening to is Outside the Sanctuary, Emmanuel Baptist Church's podcast. So anyway, we were talking about idolatry and different forms of it. We're going to kind of get a little bit more into the weeds with it. So stick with us, and I think you'll really start to worship us. Just kidding.
That is the exact opposite.
Oh, that's what you said.
Yes.
Said, don't.
Do not.
Don't.
Do
Okay.
not.
So
Yes.
go ahead, Steve. You were
Oh, well, what I was talking about before was I was looking up, I had remembered a verse in the New Testament where Jesus is warning the children not to, be wary of idolatry. And I was looking it up because I couldn't remember where it was. But he says it in 1 John 5:21, where he says, "Dear children, keep yourselves from idols." And then you go all the way back to Exodus, and full-on adults are worshiping idols as well. And so the thought, just passing thought, where, idolatry is such a severe thing that even Jesus was warning children about it, where from the very beginning, like, guard yourself from this thing because it's a very serious and easy sin to fall into. And so he's teaching the children, of course, to be wary of that. And as you're going along, you realize, like, essentially, idolatry kind of comes out of the root, is like the root of other sins, the worship of money, lust and greed, pride, all these things were actually warned against, of course, still in the scripture. And if you're going to follow it, all the way through that sin of idolatry and just keep on seeking the next greatest thing for yourself, you're essentially rebelling against God, is what it is. So if you're a Christian and you're committing to, that faith, following Jesus Christ and those principles, it really is at the root of it a rebellious act against God directly to idolize whatever it is in your life.
Yeah.
And it's not to say, hey, like, we already know we're all sinners, condemned and saved by grace, right? So, I don't think I'm getting on a high horse when I say, like, it really is in everything. So if you think, if you're thinking, "Ooh, I got to stop that," at its core, it might help to think, wow, this really is a rebellious act against God to, essentially undermine him and really demean him,
right,
in place of whatever the thing is that you're
it's not putting your faith in him.
Correct. And you're putting kind of your hope and your desires all into whatever thing it is that you've put there. Honestly, money, kind of what I was thinking when I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast, is really money is the thing where, in our culture, you're kind of raised being asked, what are you going to do when you grow up?
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and it's an
That's
innocent
like the goal. Is to
be a successful, citizen in society, and, you've made something of yourself, and so on and so forth. But, and I've met people who simply will not ask that to their kids or, and like even school teachers who won't ask that. It's like, because it gets you starting to think, like, in some cases, how much can I possibly make, or what, who will I be, kind of, I don't know, getting praise from if I become this thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because you want to answer in a way that gets a positive response.
Right. Yeah. You want people to be happy with you, and gratification and all that stuff. So it's like, well, I'm going to be a lawyer.
Right.
Well, why are you going to be a lawyer? And it's normally, I would have to say, it's not, just for the love of helping people always. It's probably because you're going to ideally get a big fat paycheck.
Right.
And, live a certain kind of style of life. And it's like, even that show Suits. Like, I always look at that, and it's like, it was a fun show. But the whole reason that show, I think, has its appeal is because you have these people making bank, living in money, and, very sharp, very prestigious, very in control. And there are those people that are out there, of course, that are very successful. But the draw to the show is this drama that surrounds these rich and famous people.
Right.
And of course, there's the one exception who's kind of like the main, guy in that show who just kind of cheated his way, or not cheated his way, but sort of lied his way into being a lawyer. But, it's just those kinds of things draw people. Fame, money.
Watch Suits on Netflix. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I never finished it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was attractive. It's just I got tired of the story.
That's okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
I lost interest in it.
I mean, I would never watch anything like that.
Never.
Never. If you listen to actually the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned Fight Club. So, hey.
Right.
Hey.
Yes.
But I think a lot of times,
which is a very wholesome movie.
No. I'm not recommending you watch it unless you watch the TV edited version and they don't fight.
Yes.
I would not. I never watched.
And they don't fight.
Yeah. It's actually
Okay.
it's the PC version.
All right.
Okay.
It's non-fight.
It's only 15 minutes long.
Non-fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but with idols, it's a lot of times you're putting them above God. You're putting them above the time.
That is what you're doing.
Well,
Right.
yeah. And you're putting it above the time of worship, but you're turning it into a god.
Correct.
And so, when the secular world does it, like, I don't know why I think like then they turn fake things into gods. You think about the old Native Americans, or I mean, we can go way back where it's the wind and
fire,
all the elements.
Yeah,
that's right. Do you want to keep naming elements?
I'm just going to keep on going.
Yeah, I really wish you.
I get your point.
The rocks.
I get your point.
Yeah,
You're making me think of the
Thunder,
movie Frozen.
Yeah,
I've never seen that either.
That's where I'm at.
Yep.
Well, you got to let it go.
Yeah.
So. Damn. That was the best.
Oh.
That was good.
We can end it there. So, but I actually think about, we went to, not the three of us, went to the church, went to Israel a few years ago. We went to Mount Carmel, and that's where Elijah, with the prophets of Baal, and basically they were making all these idols more important than God, and then,
right.
God, showed he was God.
Right.
So I think sometimes with us, like we have to take the stop, and I commend you again for doing what you did, but take that stop and, we got to refocus in on God.
Right.
And put these other things away. Now, again, some people might, it wouldn't, I'm going all over the place, but your thing that you consider your idol might not be the idol for me.
Sure.
And then also, I can't judge you. I can't see your motives. I can't see your heart. Jesus can see your heart. I can't.
Right.
So, when you're saying like, well, this is something, I can't be the judge of that. Or if you see me, you can't be like, well, that's an idol to him, because that's right. I mean,
I think you could in some cases.
Okay, go ahead. Hit me.
The fruit of your, of your spirit will show in a way, I think.
Yeah. No, I think so. And I think because say that, it's just like an example, but totally hypothetical, because I've never, I'm just going to use you because you're here.
Oh, that's exciting.
This was never a thing, right? But
why did you bring me?
Totally hypothetical.
Sure.
But like, let's just say you were in church and you were just on your phone the whole time, and your kids were running around screaming and whatever, and you were just on your phone scrolling on Instagram, and you saw that. Well, you could certainly see that and say, hey, look, like, it might not be your place to step in and say something.
No, that's correct.
But you could certainly righteously judge that and say, hey, like, there's something probably more going on. Like, if Katrina is that disconnected from her immediate surroundings, then absolutely, that would, to me, would be like at least an orange flag. And I'd be like, I wonder. And honestly, those kinds of opportunities, like I said, like, it might not be your place to immediately go up to her and say something, but maybe it is, right? And you're saying, hey, like, are you okay? Because in my mind, I see that and I say, are you okay?
Right.
Because, and it's also cause for prayer. Because it's like, honestly, like I said, if you're that disconnected and blatantly so, something's going on, and it really doesn't take a genius to see that.
Right.
And then, of course, if you see it repeatedly, well, then there's cause for, I would say, a Christian brother or sister to at least offer, a shoulder in however, in whatever way. Yeah. Again, I think it would be received differently if some random person who was a Christian came up and be like, hey, look, there's a problem here. Yeah. Right. But like if Debbie were to come up to you and Debbie, you're good friends with Debbie, and she was like, hey, I'm a little concerned about this. Can we talk about it? Maybe pray about it. that might be something that's more appropriate. And I think that's
Yeah.
an example of like where you could certainly see where it's like, oh, that's something is an idol. And we know your heart really, you do want to be a mom, but really you're ignoring that calling right now. And I mean, pastors do it, professionals do it.
I think we've gotten out of the habit of doing that.
Yeah.
As
People are afraid.
friends, as family, as, we don't.
Well, that's why we brought you on here.
So,
And we love you as
Intervention time.
totally hypothetical. Just an example.
Of course.
But you're right.
But the
We have gotten away from
deletion of that has, it came in handy this past weekend when we were away. We were away in the Poconos. You had texted me and I said, I'm actually away this week. And you were like, okay, never mind. But, yeah. So, when you're there, we were with our entire family, and I didn't have good old apps on my phone to
Lusty distract.
go out to. So, but it was a blessing because, you get that time in with the people that you're close with, and that matters.
Right.
Oh, you're getting all sentimental.
A little.
They're growing.
I don't know anything about that.
Sentimental? Mr. Sentimental. Yeah. I still have, pictures of my kids, and, it was my birthday, and my daughter gave me pictures of her when she was little in a little book. And
Really?
Oh, it was awesome.
Aww.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sentimental, and I put it above my Bible, and I said, no.
There it is.
I was waiting for the shoe to drop.
I can't help myself. No,
Try.
Yeah.
Right? No, but it's not just phones and not just
that's just one,
one
aspect of
little
it.
aspect.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and I think that's we have to look back at the examples in the Bible to, like, that's one of the reasons why they're in there. I mean,
right. Pride is one that is easy to go to because, so many people, how many people would say, I don't need help? And you go to church, you're there for some reason.
Right.
Not quite sure what, if you're not willing to receive help because you just simply don't need it. And especially if some, brother or sister in Christ were to approach you and say, hey, like, can I help you with this? Especially like money. People get really weird about money. Yeah. You try to give them money and they're like, oh, I don't need that. No, I'm good. I'm good. And it gets all awkward. And, especially like when you're buying eggs and trying to buy lunch for people and stuff,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Bill has a hard time accepting it.
No. It was me. It was just a funny joke, but like, but it's
we have
things
to
like
let the
that.
people in on it. I mean,
Yeah, I'm clueless.
You can say, because I'll just ramble. I barely remember it anyway. I got the punchline.
I got Steve lunch one day when we went out. It wasn't.
It was a random
deal.
lunch.
Just a random lunch.
Yeah.
We do that, and then later he says,
we're in a different group.
A different group, and he goes, "Well, I have eggs every morning for breakfast." And I said, "Oh, I didn't know you had that kind of money."
Yeah, I was like, well,
I paid for lunch.
Yeah,
When
and
you get eggs,
I bought 2 dozen eggs that day.
Ooh, somebody's living in it.
something
Yeah.
now.
I didn't know it was a flex. I was just like, I had eggs for breakfast.
Yeah.
So that was what that
Eat
was.
like a king.
Yes, I had no clue.
Yeah.
But anyway, pride is one of those things. You just fall straight into it. You can't accept help. And that's the pride of life that God talks about in the scripture. And when you're going to church, you're, sort of like the life, honestly, like I've been very blessed recently, just feeling love from the church people, from our immediate close friends that we're able to spend time with because our lives are so crazy. But like, it's just been such a blessing to be able to receive and to give. And I think that's just it just reminds me of how, God's model for the church and, love between brothers and sisters in Christ, how that kind of works. Being able to help, like, watch someone's kids or being able to pay for dinner or just being able to, like, to use our house, right? Like, we use our house and it's the house God gave us. Right. So why not use it, for that? So,
And it's it all falls back on to doing it in love.
Right.
So like 1 Corinthians 13, 1, I think 13, 1 says, if I speak in tongues of men of angels, but I have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. It's all about doing it in love, but in righteous love, not just, I love the Phillies. I love cheesesteaks.
Right. Just frivolously throwing the word love out there.
I'm not even sure that we're hitting what really love is.
Yeah.
And, no, we're not going to get into the Greek and agape.
Oh, yeah.
All that.
It's for another time.
Yeah. I'll bring a pastor on for that.
Yeah,
Please.
Let's talk about the deep parts of it. But I think that if we're showing love to others, we can help them through when they're struggling with idols and
and I think
and all
through those, like the other sort of human reactions, against sort of help or love or whatever, might actually kind of dwindle because you're seeing like a genuineness from somebody. It's not a desire to get one up on you or, you owe me. It's like that Office episode with Dwight and he's going around and he's like giving everybody bagels and like, you owe me, like you owe me one. Yeah. And, but it's like, it's never a competition. It shouldn't be a competition. It shouldn't be a touting of what you've earned, on your own volition, right? Because nothing we have is of our own, right? And quite honestly, all the stuff that God has given us just withers away like the grass in the end anyway. So it really doesn't matter. It's to be used in the moment, in this, present time for, really for the worship of the Lord. And one of the ways that we worship is by giving, and sharing and bearing one another's burdens, which would be like one of those things where if somebody was prideful about not being able to be helped financially or something, and it's okay, like everybody's in their different position. It's just an easy one to kind of grasp where it's like, if you do need help, we're willing to help. And it does take a kind of a humble person, or maybe a desperate person to be able to accept financial help too. So that's just like one aspect, but it's pretty contentious.
We talked about earlier with money being an idol and you hear the root of all evil is money, but it's actually the love of money.
The love of money, right?
And so
that changes it.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, money can be a good thing because it can help others, and it's not always just a greed thing. And it's, now there's a comedian, and I wish I remembered who the comedian was, but
surprised you don't remember.
I don't remember who said it. I remember the line of like, money might not buy happiness, but I've never seen somebody frown on a jet ski. So,
right.
I mean, money can do a lot of help, but it also can do a lot of damage as well. Because just look at Hollywood. Oh, yeah. Where they got all the money in the world. And
what do they have to show for it?
And what do they have to show for it?
I remember me and my family were driving through Cape May. I was looking at all those Victorian houses and like, wow. But for what? If you don't have Jesus, if you don't understand that you are saved by grace and that you deserve nothing, how do you have joy in this beautiful home? Where is the joy? It's just a house. It could just
now there are people that have beautiful homes in Cape May that are I'm sure praising Jesus.
Yeah,
I understand. Yeah.
But
it just takes away that I wish I had that. I hope that they enjoy their house, enjoy the architecture, but I hope that they have the Lord in their heart, because nothing else, it takes all the shine off of that beautiful home if there's not a Bible reader in it.
Right.
It's like, why is it there? What's the point?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I think it kind of reminds me of like, I think we've talked about it before where, you actually really can't expect someone who doesn't know the Lord to even understand any of the principles that the Lord has set out, right? So you have, I don't know, probably the world's billionaires, I don't know how many of them know Christ. I have no clue. Probably less, than more.
Yeah.
But
And on the next chapter, we're going to name them.
yeah, right. And but I think about those people now. A lot of them, probably most of them, are doing wonderful things for the world's population. God uses them where they're at just for the sake that they're on this planet living the life of a person in humanity within the confines that we have.
Yeah.
But then for a Christian to look at them and then be like, well, you're certainly not using this thing in the right way, right? It's like, it's a little unfair because they're not saved. They may have never heard the gospel yet. But to know that, like, wow, that's kind of fuel to say, man, if, that's just another soul that potentially could be won for Christ, and saved by God's grace. And so it kind of really makes you sad in a way. And I don't want to be bawling for every person in the world who is wealthy or whatever, but the principle stands that, like, any unsaved person still needs Christ, and it's a free gift that they'd get for all the riches and glory. So it's like, and that thing that they have will just wither away here and die when the earth goes, but their riches and glory are eternal through the saving grace of Christ, which was free, and they didn't have to pay a dime for it, maybe just their pride. So I always think about that, where it's like these people who are on top of the world from a social status, really, they do have nothing because they don't have the simplest, most free thing, which is God's grace. So it just makes me think about that, where it's just an opportunity.
Right.
And then when you talk about that, and I know this is going to be another topic on the podcast in the future, but when, again, we talk about motives and starting out right, there's a lot of good preachers that started out right, and now they need a private jet.
Yes.
And they need
security details.
And it turned into an idol again. As far as, they're not following what Scripture says.
And I would also point to their confidants, their team. Right. That's kind of one of the benefits of, like, a plurality of eldership, where you have this accountability. It doesn't have to be elders in the church, but I mean, even your close friends, right? If somebody's not helping you to stay accountable, because we're sinners, we're going, like, the second you get a taste of fame, you're like, whoa, that was kind of nice, and you maybe have never had it before. Well, our sin nature would probably take over, 9 times out of 10. And you would hope not, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, statistically speaking,
Right.
And
Human nature.
Yeah, human nature. But where were your friends in that church or in your spiritual, circle? Were they not warning you against idolatry? Were they not, or were they riding your coattails?
Right.
Because they also wanted it. I mean, I look at that, and again, actually, that's not for 100% of people in that scenario, because I know even specifically a couple people who have stepped back because they were warning someone and they wouldn't listen. So they stepped away from that responsibility, from that team, and that must have been a hard thing too, because you want to see good things come out of this, but when you're only seeing idolatry, greed, and that ship is just barreling forward with no stop, then, it's a shame. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you kind of get to the top of the mountain in the Christian sphere, and when are you going to come down? Who's going to humble you?
Having that discernment to know when it's time to jump the ship.
Probably when you were pricing out jets might be a good sign.
Well, on that note, I have to leave and go price out a jet.
Yes, jets are not a problem. Do not mistake us.
And I can't.
And neither is money. It's the love.
You can't, Bill. You can't.
Yes.
I can't. But I look at those people, and I just don't like the the close leg room and the
it's not your style.
It's just I don't want all that.
You need to be able to stretch.
Understandable.
Yes. But thank you so much for watching.
Thank you very much.
And listening and subscribing, and I do really genuinely appreciate anybody that comes to us with ideas or anything. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye now. So for Katrina, Steve, and myself, thank you.
Thanks.
And we'll see you another time.